It's about to get diplomatic.
Well, people, we are finally here with Star Wars video games. What is next? Now, of course, we saw the two trailers at the Game Awards, and I'm not going to be talking about Fate of the Old Republic as much and Galactic Eraser. I don't think I'll be talking about them at all, really, because they recently just got announced, and of course, I'm sure we all want new information. But I figured I just want to talk about the games that are still in development and the stuff we don't know much about, because I do feel like it's important that I feel like, some of you guys are probably not aware, probably not been tapped in with the information, with news that's been going on for the last couple of years with these Star Wars games. So I thought I'll just keep you guys in the loop. And of course, if there is any new information coming out, I'm sure it will come out in a couple months' time or later on in the summer. And then, of course, we'll find out from there if there's any new games or any more content coming with the games in total. So, yeah, let's just get straight into this, because I do have some games that I want to talk about. And then towards the end, we're going to talk about the live action media Star Wars just for a bit. So let's start with the Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. So the announcement came out, the trailer for it, actually, the teaser trailer came out back in I'm sure it was like 2019, I'm sure. So it has been a couple years since we've heard or even seen any type of gameplay or a new trailer. But I did look up through some articles that they are still at work. Now, Embracer Group, who are the guys that are making it, of course, along with BioWare. Now, they are working on both these games, and it was rumored to be cancelled. There was rumors, and I thought, oh man, if it gets cancelled, it's just gonna look really bad, because these two games were deemed pretty high in my Star Wars experience of gaming. Because man, I'm telling you, like the way it was just you could answer, you could be a Jedi or a Sith. You could answer certain questions. It was one of those things that BioWare is known for. If you guys have played Mass Effect, then you know that that type of Star Wars game is going to be really good, and it makes sense to do it in a style that way. Of course, there's going to be some changes. It's not going to be like the original games, and it's been a minute since I played those original games, honestly. But what I will say is that they were a lot of fun, story well developed. Again, graphics and gameplay might not exactly been the best back then in the 2000s, but it was an experience, man, and you couldn't go wrong with games like those two. So I'm looking forward to hearing more news about this. We haven't heard much of an announcement, obviously, since 2024, saying that it's still in development. The remakes are still getting made, but I'm hoping we get to see a trailer either sometime this year or sometime next year. Something for the gameplay, or whether it's just a story trailer. We need something new, because we don't want to hear another rumor it's cancelled and then it's actually confirmed to be cancelled. So the announcement for Star Wars Eclipse came out a few years ago, and we haven't heard much since. And I think last year and this year they have actually said a bit more than just hiding and thinking that, okay, again, this is another game that rumored to be cancelled, or not even so much rumored to be cancelled, but it was rumored that it was supposed to come out 2027, but it might be pushed to 2029, 2030, something like that, right? And I thought, why is it taking so long for these games to come out? And I understand it a year, 2 to 3 years, but not 5+, man. And I thought, it's gonna be annoying when this game comes out. But we have heard from David Cage, that he has said that he has made a blog post in 2025 that Eclipse is still in development, and there's also been a leak to some alien races coming back. So there's some alien races that we haven't seen in a while coming back into this type of game. Now, this game is based in the High Republic era. If you guys don't know what the High Republic era is, it's 100 years before the Phantom Menace, the mainline story of Star Wars. So it's going to be interesting to see characters that we just don't know about. And also, if we might even get a Yoda cameo, because this was around the time where Yoda was the Grand Master. Well, I'm sure he had been the Grand Master for thousands of years. Well, no, sorry, not thousands of years, hundreds of years, because I forgot Yoda is 900 years old, right? So he's been the Grand Master for some time now. So I wonder what he would have been doing, or what type of things he would have been saying, or what plans the Jedi had going forward, right? And of course this is the era as well where we don't really see much of the Sith, but it'll be cool to kind of see a little remnants of what type of enemies the Jedi's were dealing with. So I do think Eclipse has potential, because it's the same company, Quantic Dream. They made Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Become Human, all three great games. And multiple choice, I think it's gonna work. For a game like Star Wars, it can work, but multiple choice can work. Now, we just have to see how things pan out in terms of the fighting, the story, the actual, all of the gameplay elements and stuff. So I'm looking forward to this. I am still interested in this. I'm glad that this one wasn't like cancelled. You know, there was rumors about a few of these Star Wars games being cancelled. And I was just like, why? Please, please, for the love of God, do not let it be cancelled. But they're still here talking about it. So hopefully this year or next year we see something big, and it has to be something that will actually get everybody back and interested in this game. And I'm sure people are still interested and waiting for this, but again, you don't want the hype to go away, do you? Next, we're going to talk about Skydance. Now, Skydance is a new media company run by Amy Hennig. If you guys don't know who Amy Hennig is, she is the director, well, she was the director for the Uncharted series 1 to 4. And she is working on a new Star Wars game. And I think this is interesting because since she was the director of Uncharted, I can only presume that if this is a game that's gonna be like the Uncharted series, we're gonna have some real fun with an action adventures type of story. So I'm hoping whatever she does, it's gonna be really good. It's gonna be really great. We haven't heard much about this one though. That's the only thing. It's been kind of like really kept under the radar. So it has been announced. I'm sure people know about it, but we just don't know too much about it. This is the one of the games that this is little information has come out for this game at all. But the one thing that Amy has said is that she couldn't be more thrilled to work again, and I think that the whole team is just looking forward to creating something unique to the Star Wars adventure. And I think that's what a lot of us fans want. That's what a lot of us supporters want. We just want something new, something creative. It doesn't necessarily have to be about Jedi, Sith, the Force. It could be just like a bounty hunter, a rebel kind of game. Like, as long as it has Star Wars all over it, the essence of it, it should be fine, really. But I won't go too much into detail about this, and you guys can pretty much read the article that's up here, because again, there's not much information that's been put out. There's been a few articles here and there, but I'm sure we'll find out either something, I'm gonna say earliest next year. Finally, guys, the last bit of information that I wanted to talk about was Star Wars Jedi 3. So we've had Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. Now it's the third installment, which is the final one. And we all know that Respawn is hard at work, and we've got to give it to them. Respawn made a character out of nothing and turned Cal Kestis into something, and his story is now interesting. It's now very interesting. It's now at a point where it's like, okay, what could happen next in Jedi 3? And a lot of us are spectating, will he fight Darth Vader? Yeah, and I will probably lose my mind if he does, because we've probably been waiting for that. We tried in the first game. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what happens in the first game. Listen, you couldn't even touch him. Even if you try to touch him, force grab, you're in that chokehold, everything, you can't move. You can't move. You literally cannot move. But I'm actually happy that this is still in the works. We haven't heard much from any of the actors, like Cameron Monaghan, who plays Cal Kestis. I think the only thing he's really tweeted and said anything about Jedi 3 is that he's been called into for development, to say that he's been recording some lines and stuff like that for the story. But we haven't heard much about the story, the gameplay, anything, or even a trailer. What was unfortunate is that we did lose the head. We did lose the head of Respawn, Stick Amusin, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry, but he was a good director for this game and a leader for this game. Unfortunately, he left Respawn to make his own company, and hey, sometimes that happens, and I'm sure people are worried about what the third Jedi game was going to bring without Stig, but I do feel like there is some hope, because Respawn have been hard at work, and we know EA has had some nonsense with firing people and stuff, so that is probably going to take a hit as well in the development as well. But let's just be hopeful. Let's just hope that the game will still be really good. The final part to the trilogy, I think this is the one that I'm most hyped for. I honestly can't wait for this, because I didn't think I'd be that interested in this game, in these games at all, but I am invested. So, and I'm sure other people are as well. So let's just wait and see. Hopefully we will hear something this year at Summer Games Fest or even the Game Awards. Let's see. Maybe early, maybe it'll be something next year even. So I'm expecting a lot of these Star Wars informations or like trailers with reveals and stuff, like gameplay trailers or even story trailers to come out sometime, I would say between now and 2027 to 2028 basically. But yeah, let's just hope that the earlier the better basically. So when it comes to Star Wars video games media, guys, I'm not necessarily too worried if a game is going to be good or bad, because if there is a bad game, there'll always be something you can take away from it, you know what I mean? So even if, for example, let's say the KOTOR remake isn't as good as we wanted it to be, but there's still some fun elements to it, I'm fine with that, because you know, nothing's perfect. All we want is just a solid game. That's all we want at the end of the day, is just to have fun. But I do think the video games media is a lot better than the live action media right now. And with the live action media, I just haven't been impressed at all for the last couple of years of Star Wars. There were some shows that were good, such as Andor, Mandalorian, The Bad Batch, Season 7 Clone Wars. I think those are the highlights for me when it comes to the Star Wars shows. But when it comes to other Star Wars shows and movies like The Last Jedi, Rise of the Skywalker, Book of Boba Fett, Acolyte, the Kenobi show, list goes on, right? There's been a lot of negatives, unfortunately, with the live action media that I've been wanting to address for a while, but I just kept it under the top because I don't want to be complaining all the time, but I do think the love and the quality of Star Wars just isn't there anymore, and it's sad because you know now the fandom is split. But I do feel like the fandom was already divisive before the sequels even came out anyway, because one thing about the Star Wars fanbase I have realized is this: a lot of us are selective. We like the Jedi and Sith stuff. Then there's the people that like the Imperial stuff. Then there's the people that like the Rebel stories. Then there's the people that like the spaceship adventures or the space battles. And it's like, don't get me wrong, you know, I like all aspects of Star Wars, right? The favorite, my top priority is the Jedi and Sith stuff. I love that stuff, but I still appreciate all the other stuff that comes with it. But to the people that just hate on other stuff because it's not Star Wars or they don't feel like it should be Star Wars, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, so for a show like Andor can be Star Wars, I mean, a show like Andor can't be Star Wars because it doesn't have the element of the Force in it. That doesn't make sense to me. And I think there's been a lot of confusion, a lot of hate going on, and it's just like, man, we can't do it. It's just nonsense, isn't it? And I know they're trying to work on this whole Rey saga with in Disney right now with Daisy Ridley, but it's just like, I'm not interested anymore. I'm not interested to see her character. I'm not interested to see John Boyega's character anymore. Disney have ruined both of them as both of their characters, and I just don't know why that they would both kind of defend them, even though knowing that there was no direction. And I felt like they both should have spoke up and more to say like, Star Wars has, they've basically messed things up for their characters. That's what they should have been on. And I know John Boyega tried to speak out about certain things, but it's not that. It just wasn't, the way he came across about it, it just wasn't like, yo, you have to remember, like, that, you know, your character was, everybody liked your character. It was just, a lot of people didn't like Rey, and I thought Rey was a cool character, but what they did in The Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker, I just said, no, that's not enough for me. It's not good enough for me. And Disney as a company, you know, they've been in hot water for a minute now, and the more nonsense that they do is the more that people are just going to be drifting away now, because this is a kids company essentially, right? And them going off and doing other kids movies and stuff like that they usually do, it's not been the same. It's not been the same for them, so they're really in hot water. So I don't blame the fans for splitting the fandom deeper than what it was. Well, I do in a way, but I don't. But I think it's more so Disney. Disney have allowed this rip where it's like, the new fans, we're just going to focus on the new fans and that's it. Whereas older fans like myself who love the prequels and the OG trilogy and a lot of the Legends lore from the books and the novels and comics and whatever, all that stuff has been thrown out the bus because you want to focus on the new stuff. If you could say, all right, we want to do this new stuff for new fans and then the old stuff for older fans, I would be fine with that. But they haven't said that. They haven't done that, and they've shown that. Which is why I really despise a show like The Acolyte, because it's like, this doesn't make sense to the lore of Star Wars, the original lore. But that's just my opinion, and I'm not trying to get anybody. If you like any of the new Star Wars content, guys, hey, all power to you. I'm not knocking you. I'm just telling you what I don't like. You know what I mean? And then, of course, there's already been some racism in Star Wars as well. I'm not even going to get into all of that, but what I will say is stupid, it's pointless. You shouldn't be looking at people for the color of their skin. But we are, we're in 2026 now. You shouldn't be looking at people for the color of their skin because a show is bad. You should be looking at the acting skills and the character direction. And a lot of the times it's come down to character direction and even some acting, but it's more so down to the character direction. That's the issue I've had with John Boyega's character. I had a problem with Moses Ingram when she played the sister in the Kenobi show. And then I had a problem with the actress who was in The Acolyte. And I just said, nah, this is not enough for me. What is going on here? Where's the quality? Where's the love? Where's the passion? But I do understand that there is the racism factor as well. And I'm just like, these guys, like, you guys need, a lot of these people are so brain dead that they just don't look past that. They just think of it as like, oh, we see the color, that's the problem. No, don't tie a bad show because of the person's race. Tie it down to the people, down to the director, to the writers. That's what it should be about. But yeah, I'm not gonna get too much into it because you know what happens when people rant on Star Wars and stuff. It goes one way, then it goes another way. It's just all over the place. So yeah, but anyway, guys, that's gonna be pretty much it for the video. If you have any thoughts or any info that you may have heard, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one. I'm gone. Peace.